How's it going, YouTube? This is Cop Knight speaking. I hope you guys are well. Today we're going to have quite an interesting topic, as you can probably tell from the title below. Pads versus tampons. Now, before any of you get the rope, particularly you conservatives out there, doesn't matter what religion you belong to, hear me out. We often hear about discussions and debates regarding which is better, what is more preferable, what is more suitable, etc. But me, on the other hand, I'm going to tell you my personal opinion on and my personal comfort on which alternate I particularly prefer, and other things that are linked to it, including cultural aspects of it, so on and so forth. Now, as we all are women, this is strictly for girls, all you guys out there. Move along or stay if you want. I really don't care. We all know that there's a certain time in our life when we start growing and developing. All the secondary sex characteristics, whether it includes development of hair, extra hair, development of bosoms, development of, this is a little bit difficult to go into, etc., but having acne, etc., having more cravings of eating that are unexplainable, feeling angry, sad, or depressed, normally when we don't, or normally when we do. So we often wonder what this all leads to, etc. Then boom, one day you look down in your undergarments and see a color that you never expected to see, and you freak out. I know I've had it. I was 11. I know it was early. Well, not too early. I think that's a suitable time. I know some girls who start at the age of 9, and that makes me want to cry, because to me 9 is like a baby. 11 is more like a kid with a proper understanding of how things work. Not in a full sense, but rather a garbled form. But they're still smart enough on other aspects. So, then I am... This is awkward, so you can tell I'm fidgeting because I'm trying to think how to say this without sounding too icky. So, boom, you're developing. You've hit Mother Nature, and that also wonderful period comes to you. You don't know whether to laugh or cry. Most girls cry. Me, I was like, yeah, whatever. That was because I'd already known about it beforehand. My mother, being a nurse, was very technical and very open with me, so I understood these things basically as a regular process of life. As a kid, I was already at the understanding or functioning level, knowing that each person experiences a certain thing in their life. Some may be sooner, some may be faster. I understood that everyone had to be born, everyone has to live for a while, and everyone had to die. Except some people would have more problems, some would have less, some would have a longer life, some would have a shorter life, some would lead a fuller life in a short amount of time, and some would lead a relatively wretched life in a longer amount of time, I suppose. You get the idea. So it really wasn't that big of a shock to me. I was actually in the 4th grade, or class 4, when they explained to us about menstrual cycles and periods. They separated from the boys from the girls and showed us a video. I look back on that and I think, wow, you really wanted to tell a bunch of 4th graders that so early? But hey, I guess they knew what they were doing. Guess. So basically, I don't know it from the scientific aspect, because I'm not a science, I'm almost like Trish Paytas in a sense, a complete science novice. So all they talked about was the fallopian tubes, the use of pads or tampons, the feeling of being angry, sad, having acne, which I had that when I was 10, and I don't really have it anymore, but it's all over here and here and here, and trust me, it's really uncomfortable. My mom always says, be thankful you don't have acne on your face, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I have to spend the rest of my life itching, and so on and so forth. So, let's get back, I'm sorry for rambling, let's get back to topic. Tampons versus pads. Some people prefer tampons, some people prefer pads. What do I prefer? pads. This is because I feel it's a lot easier. Simply stick on, stick off, throw away, etc. Um, for for those particular days of the month, from the Islamic point of view, Muslim women, I think this also applies to Jewish women too. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Jewish women, Muslim women, on the days of our menstrual cycle, we cannot pray because then our bodies are considered to be unhygienic or unclean. So we would wear the appropriate equipment, so to speak, pads or whatever, and wait 7 days or so until it was over, and then we would purify our bodies and clean ourselves to make ourselves ready for the next prayer. And also, it's a sin in Islam for a women in period for their husband to touch them during their period. It's considered a great sin. So we don't let our husbands do that. And I really wouldn't want to anyway, because that sounds kind of gross, don't you think? Ew. So anyway, oftentimes I've heard on internet forums, and I've often heard a lot of quarrels that girls would often fight with each other and say, oh, what's wrong with using tampons, etc., etc. My opinion? Nothing. I don't think so. If you're really scientific and if you're really broad-minded and really open, and if you live in an environment full of open-minded people, then I guess it's okay. Personally, my mother is a nurse and she feels that she doesn't like it for the insertion of a foreign object which can be easily contaminated from others can have serious side effects, as there was a woman who did die from that. Of course, that's not going to happen to everybody, but safety first, better safe than sorry. And another thing. The nature of the tampon in itself is rather complex in a sense that when you have to insert it inside you, you inadvertently break or damage a certain part of your body, a maidenhead, so to speak, which sort of determines your virginity or not, according to most people. And this is where the argument starts. Lots of girls say, oh, but that doesn't count as virginity being broken. You were just doing what you had to do in order to meet your needs with Mother Nature if you didn't feel comfortable using a pad, etc., etc. I understand that. That's perfectly understandable. You never had the intention of doing anything like that. You simply wanted to address your problem of your period, as it is your choice. Understandable. But you got to remember, you're living in a Western society where most people are open-minded and they understand these things and they're educated. And the men here, Western... Honey, please. This is awkward. कंप्यूटर के साथ खेलो बेटा. खेलो.
What?
जा बेटा. जा. Anyway, the men over here are much more understandable and much more open-minded because they're exposed to it, whether they see it on TV, internet. They have the understanding that a woman, there's more than one way to break a maidenhead. Some women break their maidenhead through sports. Some women break their maidenhead through just excessive crouching down or washing clothes, etc., etc. I know in Pakistan and India that happens a lot, and they don't even know it, etc., etc. So the men here in the Western world are very broad-minded. So that's why the women here are puzzled as to why some other people might have an adverse effect feeling towards the tampon because of the idea of a maidenhead breaking in the process. That's understandable. But they have to realize in other parts of the world, like India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, basically places where there are Muslims, Christians, Hindus, basically people who are on the more orthodox side of things, or at least they appear to be. And you notice I'm doing this, appear to be orthodox. They're very, very sensitive on the topic of virginity. Very, very sensitive. We don't even have to go in that. To the extent that when a woman gets married, it's very important for her to be a virgin. Unless she was already married before, or any certain unfortunate incident happened, etc., etc. Virginity is very much encouraged over there. And also very much desired. Because majority of women, you're not going to find them who believe in, like, premarital sex or whatever. Majority of them you're not going to find. And I'm not a believer either. But I don't condone anyone. That's just me. So anyway, that's why they're more prone to using a pad rather than a tampon, because when they have their wedding night and when the husband feels he automatically can understand that there's no barrier or it's an easy penetration, he will question it. He will. I know I had my share. He will question it as to why were you so easily penetratable? And I know many of you people of the Western world are like, what? He will ask that? He will ask that. And then the girl, many of them are very shy to talk about this with their husbands. They are. They just are. That's just how they were brought up. Then they'll go into an awkward explanation as to, well, I used this, I used that, the tampon, whatever. And the husband may or may not believe them, or he may doubt them of their virginity. And I know many of you are also thinking, well, what if the guy did something before marriage, blah, blah, blah. You have to remember it's a double standard country over there, as well as here in America, too. Guy does it, it's okay. Girl does it, killer. It's double standard. So that's why many of them, including myself, prefer not to go to the tampon route, because we don't want to be in that awkward situation. Of course, for me, it's probably not going to happen because I've already been married before, so they're not going to really question me on that. But a person who's a virgin, it's different. Another thing. Oh, maybe this probably is not related to tampons or pads, but it's a very interesting explanation on how people's minds works overseas. You see, when a girl is picked to be married, and this is in rural areas only, it's not in urban areas where people are educated. This is in village areas where people are just dumb as bricks, can hardly spell their name. The thing of the matter is, they have an old custom how to determine if a woman is a virgin. You see, they spread a white sheet on the bride and groom's bed, so to speak, when they sit next to each other or lay next to each other or whatever. And after the wedding night, when the husband and wife are done doing whatever, after that, when they're not in the room, somebody sneaks in, takes the sheet, and shows it to the mother-in-law. Then the mother-in-law looks at the sheet, and if she sees any blood stains on it, it's sort of like a confirmation if the girl is a virgin or not. Blood stain means you're a virgin. No blood means you're a slut. This is all I gotta say for that mentality. Really. I mean, fuck's sake. I mean, one guy, I'm guessing he must have been of the more educated stock. He saw that his wife didn't have any blood on his sheet, on the sheet, and he was afraid for her. And he knew that his family would have been really shitty with her. So what he did was slit his wrist and put the blood on the sheet to make it look as if it were hers. Although I really wish he would have objected and told his family to back the fuck off, literally. But I have to appreciate him having the understanding. And I have to say, well, I salute you for trying to help your wife. I salute you. If we all had partners like that, whether they were men or women, the world would be a much better place. See, from this explanation, some of you girls out there can understand why many of other girls probably prefer to stay away from the tampon route because of all these complications, particularly if you're from an Orthodox family or a Western or Eastern family, etc. Basically, that is just me. I prefer to stay on the pad route, not the tampon route, because that's just me. I mean, first of all, I wouldn't feel very comfortable with that foreign object. Ew. I'm definitely afraid I'll be the unlucky person who gets poisoned. And for you guys who say, oh, Silky, really? That's a 1 in a million. Do you really think that you're going to get that? Well, and lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, you say? Well, keep this in mind, honey. It's considered very rare, well, about 20, 30 years ago, for a mother to give birth to an autistic or a sick child, mentally sick child, like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in a million. I'm not exactly sure how many would be unfortunate to have a mentally handicapped child. My mother had 2. 2. Lightning can strike twice in the same place, don't you think? One of them, my eldest brother, when he was born, when he was coming through my mother's birth canal, the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck and he didn't get enough oxygen to his brain. The second one, who was supposedly born normal, had contracted meningitis when he was like 4 weeks old, and then it totally destroyed his body and his brain. So for those of you who say, "Oh, Reshmi, what are the odds?" Trust me, you can try to understand. That's why I fear it. Those are the odds. So that's why I prefer to stick to the safer route. Although there's no guarantee on that either. I mean, pads can be equally contaminated as well. I once went with my cousin shopping overseas, and when we bought a carton of sanitary napkins, and when we opened it up, there was a spider in one of them. See? Ooh, that was bad. I had to sew my own cloth. I had to literally stitch a cloth nappy for myself and wear that because I was too scared. But you can understand. Anyhow, this was my small, ramble on my own interpretation of pads versus tampons. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope it is opening up minds and making other people understand why some people are adverse to it than others. Anyhow, talk to you soon. See you later.